Hello and welcome to Music in Widescreen. I'm your host, Mark, and I'm here with our special guest, David Longdon from Big Train. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Mark.
Hey, it's great to have you here. We met briefly at King's Cross for the show. So my wife and I have been to see you. We've flown over an ocean to see you perform. I think 3 times. It was Cadogan Hall, and then again at the German festival night of the Prague. And luckily for us, the one show we didn't really see is now going to be available on a 2 CD and Blu-ray sets as well as downloadable. Correct?
It is, yeah. Empire.
Empire.
Yes.
So let's before we talk a little bit about that. I kind of see that we've never really talked before. I like to kind of find out about how did you get here? You know, when I look at your history, there was like a solo album in 2004, and then maybe not too much going on, and then all of a sudden you kind of burst onto the scene with Under Fall Yard. And is it just that I was ignorant of what you were doing, or what was going on prior to your tour with Big Train?
I mean, I've been continually doing music for, I was an overnight sensation. It took me 45 years to get there. But no, I think it was, I guess it was just, they were difficult times back then. They were, I guess I really wasn't doing the thing that I was probably doing the wrong thing in the wrong place at the wrong time, or that kind of thing. So there's a lot of luck involved in all of this. For example, me joining Big Train, I did the session for Martin Alford, and in meeting Martin and going and working on that, I went to Orbit Studios in Southampton, and that's where I met Rob. And Rob was the catalyst for me joining Big Train. So, it only takes one thing, in the right place to make, like the connection, and then suddenly it happened. And then after that, we've not really looked back, really. I think for both Greg and I, Greg Sporton from Big Train, we, our success has come sort of late in life, for us. We're the same age, we were born in the same year. Right. So, but kind of like when kind of making our mark, if you like, on a wider, making a bigger mark, things with the Under Full Yard when we released that record. I think it came, we were quite long in the tooth, as they say, quite.
well, the way to start a music career, I get that. Yeah. But so I guess I always wanted to ask you this question because it's almost hearsay at this point. Were you among the finalists in Genesis for Calling All Stations album?
Yes, I was.
Excellent. And how, do you want to dive into that? I'm sure some of our listeners would be wondering if there's any interesting stories about how that came about. And
I was literally working in a school. I was a technician at that time, a theatre technician, and working in the arts. And I had a call from a friend of mine, a guy called Gary Bromham, who'd been working with Nick Davis, who's Genesis's long-time engineer and producer. And what had happened was, I think Phil had decided that he was leaving the band. And Tony and Mike at that point had decided that they were going to look for other singers. And he'd been working in the studio with Nick Davis on his own band, which at that time was signed to EMI. And he played Nick something with me singing on it. Nick liked it, played it to Tony. Tony liked it. That's Tony Banks. Yeah. And Mike was out with Mike and the Mechanics on tour. And when Mike returned, Mike heard it. Mike liked it. And so the interview process was underway. I was invited to come down and audition. So the first, that was it. So I did about 3 or 4 different auditions, and then they took me on board, and then I started working with them. But they were working with myself and Ray Wilson, who eventually got the job.
Okay.
As separate entities. So I was kind of thinking, okay, this is it could be either one or the other. So I've never ever met Ray. So. Okay. So I mean, there's no kind of acrimony there or anything. I've never met them. I wouldn't. But and I think I went to see I went to see Genesis play when Ray was their frontman, and I thought, with the album and what he got his work cut out for him, because that's a really hard gig to pull off. Particularly if you're Peter Gabriel or Phil Collins, that's a big. And I think he did really well under the circumstances. But I did, in hindsight, obviously hindsight's always wonderful. But I think with being in Big Train, it's enabled me to kind of I think I dodged a bullet really in terms, in terms of it could have been, because people like to pontificate. Oh, what if? There's lots of things. Kevin Gilbert. What if Kevin Gilbert was a singer? What if I was? What if? What if? It's all very tantalizing, and and it's nice to kind of, if you like, fantasize about these things. But the reality is, I think whoever got the role of Genesis as a vocalist after Phil and after Peter, that was a really tough gig to do. I think under the circumstances, it's a shame he didn't get a few more albums to kind of get his teeth into it. But it wasn't that kind of thing. And and Mike and Tony are as they are. They do what they do, and why not? But yeah, it was an incredible experience, and I kind of kept it under my hat for a long time because it was neither here nor there.
Is it okay? I brought it up. Is it?
Well, it's fine. Yeah, it's absolutely fine. It's a bit like being. It's almost like being. I don't often get asked about it. I have to say, it's been a long time. I think it's about must be about 15, 16, 17 years ago now when all that was going on. So, and I've been involved in Big Train where if it's not difficult to imagine what I might have contributed to Genesis had that been the case. But it depends. You've got to think a Genesis record, and at that time they were big business back in those days, and they still are, aren't they? I mean, they're selling out in seconds flat. But Genesis records, it's a lot of money. So writing points on those things and all of that, it's
right.
It's world. It's not just a few pounds. It's not just a few thousand either. It's thousands. So there's all that to contend with, and I don't know. It's mind bending. If I'd have got the job, I guess it would have been like winning the lottery or something silly like that. And in many ways, it's I don't know. I'm pleased. In hindsight, I'm pleased things came the way they did because I've been able with Big Train. We've been able to make our own thing under our own pace. We are our own bosses and our own. We kind of we set our own pace with what we do. And that's it.
Yeah, well, that's great. I would think that because I haven't heard a lot about it, I kind of thought I should ask the question because it's kind of interesting. I think because I think it's a little feather in your cap just to be down. And maybe it worked out for the best. They gave you a little bit of pub, and you're able to get this gig, which is so amazing.
Yes, well, that's the thing. I mean, really, it's an odd thing. It's almost like being noted for something you didn't do. I did audition for Genesis, but in hindsight, I'm really pleased I didn't get the role because I just think it would. I think with the best will in the world to Mike and Tony and all involved, I think it would have been a poison chalice. That's a really hard gig.
Right. And you didn't happen to meet Nick DiVirgilio during that? Was he playing? Okay.
No, because I've done the old road with Martin Orford.
Okay.
I'd made. We've been on quite a few different. I think Nick and I had been on 4 albums together.
Right.
Before we actually met each other. 2 of them, I think, were Big Train records.
Right.
So it was crazy. So I think I met Nick when he came over when we were recording English Electric Part 1.
Right.
That's when I met Nick. And but it feels like I've always known him now. Do you know what I mean? Because we've been through some incredible times. And Nick's a sweetheart. He's a really, really lovely guy.
He is.
He's a good guy to have in any situation. So yeah, he's a good man.
Right. I know him. He doesn't live that far from me. Maybe 100 miles away, and we're looking forward to showing all you guys actually around Chicago when you guys came. And Nick and I talked about that on the air maybe 2 months ago for his solo album when he came on. Yeah. So So let's go back to to Underfall Yard, and that was kind of, did it seem somewhat like something was kind of gelling at that part at that moment, or
there was a lot
only in retrospect?
There was a lot of good energy about that record, and we were, it's a record that we enjoyed making, and in many cases, I remember Greg saying to me that really the financial situation of the band wasn't great at that point,
right?
And this could be the last record. If it does okay, there might be another one. But there was no certainty to it. So, and we were all at that kind of stage in our life where, well, it was like, it could have been the last chance saloon. That's what it kind of felt like. But it was desperate. We just decided to make the best record that we could. And because of, the idea of big train, we decided to make it like that, big on arrangements, big on ambition, big on dynamics, that kind of thing. So we decided to make this studio-based record. And, I layered all the vocals on. I'm the only singer on the Underfall Yard record.
Right.
And I layered all the vocals and did the vocal arrangements for it because the songs had been written, the structures had been written and populated. So I couldn't get involved with that because they're all there, it was just go. And I think Greg kind of saw it, as a bit of a last stand in many ways. And, I could do or die thing. And so that's where we were. And and thankfully, I mean, a lot of things happened at that time. One of the big things for us was when the record came out, it was at the time of the launch of Prog magazine, the British mag. Yeah. And that was a really good thing for us as a UK band, because it suddenly we got a forum and we got interest in us and people writing about us, which is what young bands need, young bands, which coming bands need. Right. And we won at the 2013 Prog Awards. We won breakthrough artist, and the band had been going about 22 years. So we didn't like to rush it,
Right, yeah. Don't peak too early. Well, I know. I mean, it is for me anyway. It is kind of comforting to know that it was a band that worked, that worked for it, that didn't get didn't get signed, and then was just they threw a bunch of marketing dollars at it, and then they hit it. So it was a long process, and the band earned it. I will say, that it was just kind of an amazing thing when I heard it, because that in Chicago and in the States, you were kind of a breakthrough for us at that time. And I will tell you that it just kept getting better, and by the time English Electric came out, we were like, this is serious. This is when are they going to play live, and we're going to get on a plane if they do,
Yes.
And with that album I'm getting chills just thinking about it, especially, like Judas Unrepented and other tracks on there. Was there any worry at that point now that you're like, wow, can we really repeat this? Maybe you didn't think it was your best album like I did at that moment?
Well, I think you just have to go. You can't be paralyzed by your own success, or I mean, the good thing about it was because we'd had we had decades in the wilderness,
right.
There was no chink of light, or very little I don't know, substance or ideas, sometimes ideas of momentum. In fact, in some cases, it had been a downward trajectory, for both Big Train and my own. You get so far, and then it was almost like you're thwarted. I mean, the Genesis thing, getting that far from nowhere to then be dashed upon the cruel rock. Honestly, the metaphors are dreadful, but they're all true.
Yeah.
And it's an odd thing. So when we started getting when we got people's attention, and when we got if you like, when we made the Underfall Yard, that the positive reaction to it from both the press and also fans, really, it was great, so it inspired us to do better. And that's what we've kind of kept doing, really. We've tried to go from strength to strength. But I mean, we don't make records, I don't think, for particularly, we don't say, oh, we need to make a record that the Big Big Train massive would like, the Big Big Train fans would like. We make things that I mean, it's like this record, the new studio album that we're working on at the moment. I mean, it's a very different record for Big Big Train because we've lost one or two members as a result of the going through the pandemic and all of that, and people reassessing where they are with their lives and in these very testing times, you know. So people are questioning themselves about what it is and where they want to be in their lives. So, you know, change has happened, you know, and change isn't a bad thing, you know. So we, as a band, we've been embracing that change. You know, you can't make people stay in bands if they don't want to be in the band, you know. And it's good to be able to, you know, get it's good to be able to I don't know, just have different people in, you know, something that's going to make you know, we can explore the music and get it somewhere else where it hasn't been before with all these new people. So that should be a good thing.
Yeah, there's the synergy when you get new people involved. That's you know, will probably be great. I mean, it's always seemed to work out for you guys, and you're on a tremendous roll of spectacular albums, and such as Grand Tour. And if you like Grand Tour, you're going to like Empire, because Empire is chock-a-block full of Grand Tour tracks, as it was in support of that album. And and how was that? How did that go? When was this recorded? Was it getting close to pandemic time, or was this way before that? Was it in there?
You know what? This is a very strange thing, though. About last October time. No, it will be before then. I went down with this thing, and I was talking to Sarah, my girlfriend, about it, and I couldn't breathe properly, and I was just about to be going out on tour, and I thought, this is strange. I called, there's a number called 111 here, where you kind of like, it's like a telephone thing, and then they took me to the hospital and they looked at me there, and I went and sang the UK tour. And then when I came back, I went off to the hospital again, and I had a chest X-ray, and they're saying all these awful things that the doctors like, have you got a history of this? Has your family got a history of that? No. Had this thing, went back to the doctors, and the doctor said to me, do you realize the ends of your lungs are collapsed when you have this? Have you had some sort of an infection or whatever? You know, what's going on? Well, I'm not being funny, but Mark, I think I had COVID-19 prior to me going on tour, you know, which is insane. I've never had anything like it. Suddenly it was there were one or two nights where I was thinking, this is getting a bit serious. I can't breathe properly. But I think I had it back then. And it's interesting reading results. There's the singer from Tool put something online about his COVID experiences. And, you know, I've not been kind of 100% right since. I'm getting there, and I'm moving on, but it's that kind of thing. So, there was it's interesting looking back. Well, I've never had anything like that. And I've never had, you know, I'm normally in very good health, and I'm in good health now. I'm fit. I can do it. I can sing. I could gig, you know, I'm happy to do that, but I've never had anything like that. And I've known there's been a few friends as well, singers and colleagues and things like that, and they've had it, and you know, you're thinking, good Lord, this is, you know, it's quite extraordinary. So I think I must have picked it up somewhere, you know. So
but this show was prior to that really being right, because
we could see it creeping across Europe, and we could see it. You would hear that Italy had gone into lockdown, and then France knew it was coming. You knew it was on the way. When I was recording a record with Judy Dybel called Between a Breath and a Breath, which I'd been working on through that period, there's a trumpet player from a band called Isildur's Bane called Luca Calabres, who plays on a couple of tracks. And he was in lockdown at the time when I was working with him on the Dybel Longdon record. And, you know, it's scary. You know, it's almost like I likened it to being in like a J.G. Ballard book, you know, something like The Drowned World or something like that, where, you know, these are very almost like apocalyptic times, you know.
Right. because I figured it was a little bit before that, because it seemed like it was Rozfest wasn't too far after this recording.
Right.
So, and of course that was over with before it
Yeah.
started. And
Well, sadly, it was. We were all set to come over and see you guys in May, I think, this year.
That's right.
And then we're going to be doing Europe in July. We were all set to come and do it, and it all, the world just went mad. The world just, but we just got to keep going, and and hopefully things will improve. With science and over time. But these are crazy time.
It seems like it may be, actually. And I spoke with Greg on the show earlier, and I said I thought I'd let you know this, because when they announced you the year before at Rozfest, the year prior, that was the biggest applause. The biggest scream was you getting announced. None of the bands that were there got that kind of reaction. But when they announced Big Big Train, it went up for grabs. I'll tell you.
Oh, that's great! So that's really. I'll tell you what, we can't wait to get over and do all that, So and play for you, because we've got some tunes, and we've got some good songs, and we want to get out and play them for you.
Yeah, And my line was to people. I said, "Hey, I've seen them. I've seen 4 of their shows, or maybe I've seen them 5 times, because of 2 at Cadogan and 2 at King's Cross, and then Germany." I said, "I'm as excited as you, and I've seen them 5 times, so it can't be oversold." So
thank you, Mark.
Sure, my pleasure. I'm not trying to blow smoke, because I really feel that. I mean, I guess I put my money where my mouth is on that, because I have gone and seen you guys a bunch of times. But so let's talk a little bit about this product here. We talked about all I did is mention the song. It's chock-a-block full of stuff from Grand Tour, tracks from Grand Tour. It also has a song I don't recognize, and maybe I'm just ignorant. Is Engines and Men? Is that something new, or do I just don't know about it?
I think it's just the name, because it's an NDV thing, and I think it's Nick's. This time when we did it, Nick had previously put like a brass thing with Wassail, okay. And so when we played it this time, he decided he was going to do like a drum and brass D&B thing with as an introduction to East Coast Racer.
I see.
So that's all it was, and it's just the title rather than it being Nick Drum Solo or whatever, something like that. So because we just wanted it to have a nice sort of fit in with the record. So
track, yeah. So is there anything? I mean, I don't know. I might be putting you on the spot here. It might be something you're not aware of. But is there anything about the packaging that we should know about? What's included inside it? Or
it's a beautiful design. The graphic designer is a guy called Steve Vansis, and Steve works a lot with Fish. He's the bass in Fish's band. He's also got his own band called Tilt. Yes. And he's been working on our stuff since, I think he did the Swan Hunter single. I think that was the first thing he did. And he's a proper graphic designer, so he knows what he's doing. He puts his heart and his soul into it, and he thinks about the symbolism of things and what have you. And he's come up with this. It's a still of it's a picture of me. I think it's the end of Alive, the song Alive, where I'm in black and white and striking a very dramatic pose with a crow-headed cane. Right. And the cover is in matte, like a black and white photograph, but Big Train is in kind of shiny sort of gloss, almost like it's embossed across the lower half of the sleeve. But it looks beautiful. It's he's a very aesthetic person, Steve, and he's the great photographers that we've had on the tours and just putting it into a context. So there's a lot of photography on this release because there's so many images that are taken during the tour, as you can imagine. So there's some candid photographs of people kind of backstage and relaxing, and real world getting ready to go out on tour. And but yeah, it's a lovely document, and I think also Tim Sidwell's company, Toward Infinity. They were the guys that filmed it at Hackney, and the camera work was so subtle. He's hidden cameras around on the stage, so you do get a real sense when you watch the Blu-ray of what it is like to kind of be on stage, and the interaction between the musicians. And you know what, being on stage, I didn't notice the cameras once. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
It was so unobtrusive. It wasn't like you've got somebody there with a massive camera pointing at you or getting in your way. It was as if they were not there. So Tim and his team worked really, really well. Tim also did. He filmed the Marillion at the Royal Albert Hall in London, which was an amazing show, which I was fortunate enough to attend. And so yes, it's a great. I think it's probably our most accomplished live concert footage. So it's a step up. That's one thing we do with Big Big Train. Each thing we do, we try and make it a step up from the last thing in some way. So that's what we're trying to do.
Well, that's great. I mean, I think it sold it well. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing it. And I guess the question I have for you on the video is, was there a periscope, and did you remember to use it?
Yes, there was a telescope. And, I used it every night, and I didn't forget. So that was it. It's got its moment of glory. But that's a thing. I don't know if you were at that Cadogan Hall show where I kept forgetting it, and then we played the ending of the track. I think it's the Transit of Venus Across the Sun, and I did it. That's a typical Big Big Train thing. I was just saying to Greg a few weeks ago, we are really good at taking something that kind of possibly doesn't work well and then flipping it round. We're very good at turning it to our advantage, either in some humorous way or whatever. And I think people like it. It's a humor thing, definitely. And so as long as you can, things don't go so well. It's like this whole pandemic. We've got Empire out of that, which we probably released sooner than we were probably going to.
Right.
But it's good. It will keep the Big Big Train wheels lubricated enough for us to get us onto the next station. If you want me to kick the metaphor even.
Wow, you're really well. And speaking of metaphors, I'd like to remind people about the Passengers Club, and it's a great way to get. Raina and I are part of it, and it's a great thing. For 2 years, £50. You get some really interesting information about the band and some works in progress and other things there. And it really helps the band continue on, especially if you're like me and you actually you didn't lose your job and you're now saving money because you didn't go on all these trips you're going to go on. Think about go ahead and drop a few hours pay towards this thing for 2 years of enjoyment. It's updated, I think, every fortnight, and it's
we definitely want quality, decent content as well, and it's a real kind of window onto inside of the band, and it's a very interesting time to be looking at Big Big Train because we've got new members coming in the band. We've got new people who are now kind of working with us, so we'll be filming that encounter as well. In fact, I've been working on something today for that, so it's great, exciting times.
Right. And Steve Vantis didn't do this stuff, right? He was. You have another person. That kind of reached out to you and said, "Hey, I think I can monetize your site for you," and it worked well.
Yeah. I see. It's actually a guy called Steve Cadman, who's our label manager. Gotcha. And Steve's great. He's worked for EMI in New Zealand for years, and he's been involved with music. He's also involved in lots of different bits and pieces, but he's our label manager for English Electric Recordings.
Okay.
Steve's he's really kind of helped monetize the band, as has our manager Nick Shilton from Kingmaker Management. I don't know where we'd be without him, really, because I think if we not had the stewardship of Nick Shilton and the business acumen of Steve Cadman, I don't think there would be a Big Train more, and that's no exaggeration. So these are very tough times, but it's thanks to Nick and Steve that the train keeps rolling.
Well, I'll tell you, you were talking about how it was kind of like in the early days, under Fall Yard days, it was kind of like, okay, is this going to happen? Are we going to be able to stay together? I think Greg felt that way all the way up until King's Cross show, because there's a lot of expenditures just to get that going. and would that pay off? I know he was very nervous.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, because it was, we were a small business, really, a small limited company. I think we eventually became a limited company. I'm not exactly sure when we did, but yeah, it was all on our shoulders. And Greg at that time, it was predominantly him and Kathy, who were kind of,
Kathy, his wife, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
Who were kind of worried about it, it's difficult times, and and Big Train is ambitious, almost like ludicrous, So we would, but we needed to get someone in who could really help us with the finances, and getting Nick Shilton on board as our manager. It's just the right thing for us, the best thing we did, really.
Right.
Was I don't think we could have been going on. We couldn't have gone on the way we were going, I don't think.
All right, I think that's a perfect place to leave it. Just hang with me for 1 second. I'm going to just say the goodbye, and then I wouldn't mind chatting for another 2 minutes if you don't mind.
Okay, Mark. Yeah.
All right, great. So this was our interview with David Longdon of Big Train. I've got one action item for you guys listening. Please go to bigbigtrain.com or thepassengersclub.com and check out their merch and all their great stuff. So, David, thank you so much for hanging with me.
It's a pleasure, absolute pleasure, Mark. Thanks I enjoyed your questions. It's always good to talk about these things. Like I said from the top of the interview, you can ask me anything, really, and you did. And it's nice talking about the Genesis thing. So I've not spoken about that for a long time. Okay. So it's good to talk.
Good. Well, thanks very much.